Signing for our next author, Montpelier resident Roberta Harold. A native of Scotland who emigrated to the U.S. at the age of 12, Roberta started breaking down barriers right off. She was among the first women graduates of Princeton University. She's a graduate of the Breedlove School of English at Middlebury College and a member of Sisters in Crime. At the book signing, we celebrated the publication of Roberta's novel Heron Island, the story of Detective Dave Wyatt, Shakespearean actor, widower, and rough rider, as he prepares Lake Champlain's Heron Island for a visit by President Theodore Roosevelt in 1903. Wyatt pursues suspects in Burlington, Manhattan, and Barrie, where he is thrown into Barrie's community of radical anarchists, leading him to, where else? This very building. Let's see where her story takes us today.
Is that good?
Yes.
Let me say that the Barrie section of this novel would not have happened at all without Karen Lane and Marjorie Strong and a few other people who were just founts of information and incredibly helpful on getting that research done. And the more I read about the Barrie anarchists, the more fascinating they became to me. So they took up a disproportionate share of the book, but I was fine with that. As Karen says, the story opens on an island where our hero is providing security for a dress rehearsal for a visit from President Roosevelt. But in the course of that, something goes terribly wrong and somebody ends up dead. It's determined to be a murder, and the chief suspect is a member of a string quartet provided by Dr. Seward Webb of Shelburne Farms, a last-minute substitute who was Italian and who later on in the evening got drunk with his fellow musicians and started spouting a lot of anarchist stuff. So our hero, Dave Wyatt, decides to go to Barrie to see if he can find any traces of the suspect in the murder. So we start at the offices of the Barrie Daily Telegram, where he visits a reporter that he had met a couple of years ago while Wyatt was providing security for a visit from President Roosevelt to Barrie in 1902. John Macy's rimless glasses winked on a nose that reminded Wyatt of the sharp end of a parsnip. He grinned up at his visitor from an overflowing desk in what passed for a city room at the Barrie Evening Telegram. Macy's window was open to the warm midday breeze, too light to clear out the smell of stale smoke and old ink. The room was atap with a dozen typewriters racing the early edition deadline. "Sure, I remember you, the fellow who organized the goon squad when Roosevelt was here." Wyatt opened his mouth to protest, but Macy held up placating hands. "Okay, they didn't beat up anybody, they just looked it." "You look different. Get a haircut or something?" "I'm older." Wyatt's air of weariness was unfeigned. He'd lain awake much of the night. "I just filed my stories for the day. Take a load off your feet. What are you up to?" He waved to a chair whose legs looked as if they'd served for teething puppies. "I'm looking for a violinist," Wyatt said carefully. He filled in when one of Dr. Webb's quartet had to leave for a while. When the job was over, he headed off, but didn't leave an address. Dr. Webb liked his work and wants him back for a chamber orchestra concert they're giving. "Working for old Webb now? You go from protecting the president to filling in orchestras?" "Pays well," Wyatt said. "Fellow's name is Rossi. Said something about being from Barrie." "Why are you coming to me?" "I don't know where to start looking for the fellow. Thought I might get farther talking to you than blundering around in the granite sheds." Wyatt tilted the chair back and affected a relaxed air. "Not a bad idea," Macy said. "There's 68 of them in town. That would take you a while. I know some of the Italians, the agitators mostly. You think he's part of that crowd?" Macy's small eyes narrowed shrewdly. "Could be, for all I know. He was spouting some rubbish or other about capitalism one night after he got drunk with the other musicians. Doesn't have to mean anything." "This may be your lucky day. The Stonecutters Union Band is giving a concert in the park this evening. There's a crowd of troublemakers if I ever saw them. The music's not bad, though. Somebody there might know this fellow." "Or he may have come back to play with them," Wyatt said thoughtfully. Macy frowned and raised an index finger. "Wait a minute. Why would he have just taken off? If Webb pays so well and liked his work, why wouldn't the fellow have hung around hoping to be kept on?" Wyatt shrugged. Maybe his proletarian conscience was bothering him. "Fat chance," Macy smiled. "Where a lot of money is concerned, I've never yet known a man to stand on principle." "How long are you in town for?" "Till I find him, which I hope won't take more than a day or two." "Don't suppose it would be worth more than that." When's Webb need him for? A week from Sunday. A soiree sort of thing. At Sheldon Farms, Wyatt added unnecessarily. Macy gave him another shrewd look. Best get moving then. Where are you staying? Same place as last time, in Montpelier. Wouldn't it have been easier to stay here in town? You worried the anarchists might be after you from the last time? Can't think why. Nobody got hurt or even harassed much. What's the first name? Whose? Oh, the fiddler? I don't know. Oh, that really narrows it down. Didn't Webb have a record for paying the man? Account book or something of the sort? A casual labor sort of thing. They paid him in cash. Just put him down as G. Rossi. Great. Let's see. Giovanni, Giuseppe, Guido, Giacomo, Giulio, Garibaldi even, not ringing any bells. Macy dropped his feet from the desk and rocked forward, propelling himself out of the chair. Meet you on the town green at 6, unless you think you'd better not be seen with me. Wyatt avoided the trap. Why would I care about that? I'm just looking for a fellow to offer him some decent paying work. If you're after something to do in the meantime, go look at the new cemetery. Abate did the entrance. It's pretty impressive. Carlo Abate? Macy grinned. Yep, that one. The anarchist rabble-rouser. It's Hope Cemetery, up the road a piece. Be a long walk, but it's worth it. A pair of severe, elegant gray columns with niches that held draped female figures flanked the entrance of Hope Cemetery, sloping down to walls of granite block on either side. Wyatt had never seen Carlo Abate's work until now, and the austere beauty of the design moved him. The 8 years since the cemetery's opening had already afforded numerous opportunities to showcase the granite carver's art. Exquisite angels, miniature Greek temples, statues of prosperous-looking burghers so realistic you could see the strain marks around their waistcoat buttons, delicate sprays of roses, enormous mausoleums larger, Wyatt thought wryly, than the average apartment in the Lower East Side, and no doubt several times more costly to build. As he walked back down Maple Street into the center of Barre, he caught a tide of low-pitched sound coming towards him from Main Street. The clatter of hobnailed boots on cobblestones, hacking male coughs, arguments, banging of dinner pails against tool belts, the end of a workday in the granite sheds. 3,000 men tramped north past stores, saloons, and livery stables to the Italian district, past flat-roofed brick buildings that gave way to clapboard apartment houses. Men in billed caps and long aprons, covered from head to foot in white granite dust that glittered in the gold light of the summer afternoon, a race of statues come to life. The lines of men spilled to the width of Main Street, avoiding trolley rails slicing the cobblestones. The music of their native language rose and fell in mellifluous waves, cross-hatched with flat stutters of English. They hopped up spit the color of charcoal onto the stones. The wave of men crested, broke, flowed north. An army of ghosts. These, he realized, were the men Calcani had spoken of, men who toiled unshielded from the white dust, whose crystals, cutting into their lungs like tiny razors, would bring them an early, agonizing death from cutter's consumption. The artists who carved the beautiful colonnades, the angels, the great mausoleums, carving their own deaths into monuments for the rich. Granite was the fashion now, the reason Barre was a booming town. The pale gray stone would last far longer than marble and support much larger structures, eternal homes for those who would defy the biblical adage that you couldn't take it with you. He remembered a new book in his library, partly read. What was the phrase the author had used? Grimly humorous in this context. Conspicuous consumption. The concert on the town green frustrated his hopes. No one in the Stonecutters Union Band or in the audience resembled what he remembered of Rossi. He cursed himself again for not taking a better look at the man when he'd had the chance. Too much to hope that it would have been so easy. The crowd enjoying music hall favorites like The Sidewalks of New York and the band played on was mostly families. The men in boaters or derbies, solid mature types in their 30s or beyond. Doing their best to be inconspicuous, members of the Barre Constabulary sweated in dark blue gabardines, scanning the crowd for troublemakers. Wyatt noticed a man with curly salt and pepper mutton chops, his hair receding from a pompadoured widow's peak, handshaking his way through the crowd, beaming beneficently on the children and patting their heads. Who's that? Seems like I've seen them before. Macy laughed. Don't tell me you've forgotten old Bill Barclay, Scotchman from Aberdeen, the original Granite City. Been here 30 years maybe, but you wouldn't know it. Not content with owning half the granite sheds in town, he's supposed to be running for mayor next year. Sure looks it. The band struck up the Internationale, and the men in the crowd scrambled to their feet. They stood straight and solemn as if the band were playing the national anthem. As the music moved from introduction to main theme, some began to sing, in Italian, in English, even in French. Barclay withdrew to the periphery of the crowd and looked on, an amused half-smile on his face. Wyatt found himself oddly moved by the fervor in the workmen's faces. Sull'otiam, l'ideale nostro alfina sarà l'internazionale futura umanità, as if they thought the song could change the world. Is this for the socialists? He whispered to Macy. All purpose, Macy hissed back. Socialists, anarchists, you downtrodden workers in general. They all play it and they all sing it every chance they get. That can't be much fun for the likes of him, Wyatt nodded towards Barclay. Oh, it don't bother him a bit. Part of the reason he's done so well, he gets along with the union types better than any of the other owners. Man's crazy like a fox. He's all down to earth and straight shooter on the surface, but he knows exactly what he's doing. Divide and conquer. The band dispersed from the gazebo, mingling with the crowd. Macy shook out his jacket and put it back on. That man's got a better handle on who's doing what among the crazies than anybody in this town, themselves included. You should go talk to him. Maybe he knows something about this fiddler of yours.